to today's tutorial. Today I'll be teaching you how to make this kind of a collar. It's a bomber kind of a collar. So to make this kind of a collar, you need to start with your back panel, the back panel of your cardigan. Take the measurements. Mine measures 12, so divide by the 12 by 3. Mine gives me around 4 inches for each part, for each of the 3 parts. So the first 4 is for the first shoulder, then on the other edge the 4 is for the other shoulder. So I'm now working with what will remain at the center. What I have at the center is what will give me the center part of my front panels. So this is what I mean. So this is the shoulder part, and this is the other shoulder part. So what I'm working on is what is remaining here. So what remains on the center, again I divide it by 2. So the first, so we had 4 inches for each. So again I divide it by 2. I divide the 4 by 2, which will give me a 2. But it's easier if you're using this kind of crochet, the single crochet. It becomes easier. You just count the columns, of which in my case I have a total of 26 columns. I mean this, counting this one by one, I have a total of 26. So it became a little bit easier for me using this kind of crochet. So I've already done the shoulder part of the other front panel, and our aim is to have something close to this. So for the first row of the panel after the shoulder part, we'll start by reducing. So whether it's an adult or a child, what will guide you is the back panel. So always start with the back panel to be able to get the measurement for the front panel, to be able to shape it. So the first column I'll reduce by 5. By reducing I mean I'll not go up to here. So 1 2 3 4 5, I leave out the 5. Then so to get this part of my column, I told you this is the expected shape, so I reduced by 5. That's where we are to make the first column. So on the second column, remember this is easier because we are using this kind of crochet. I'll make another tutorial using a different crochet. So for the second column, I'll not reduce by 5 now, I'll reduce by 1. So I'll not use this. I have reduced, I left out 1. Remember, I'm working with the columns I was left with. In my case, they were 10. 10 divided by 2, I got a 5. So I have to do 5 columns here. So on my This is my third column. Again, I reduce by 1, so I leave out the last stitch to be able to shape it. So I've left out the last stitch. So I already have 5 columns. I'm only left with 2 to work on. So there's this straight part. This straight part, that's where we are now. So for the straight part, no more reducing. So no more reducing now. So we are now doing the straight part. No more reducing. Our aim is to get the 5 columns to be able to align with what was left after the divisions. So this is where I'm saying no more reducing to be able to get the straight part of our shaping. So when I say no more reducing, you see here I was reducing, but for this part I'm going up to the end. So no more reducing here. With this one, the columns might appear a little bit smaller because I was just using a small sample to illustrate how I do it. So you can see we already have our 5 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So remember, our cardigan will probably have buttons or even a zipper. So you need extra columns. You need like 2, or depending with how you want your cardigan to appear for the button lines. So for me, I do at least 2 for me to get a place to attach my buttons or a zipper. So these are just extra for the buttons or a zipper. Remember, we are already done with the shaping. So assuming this is our cardigan, we already have the 2 front panels. As you can see, we have the shoulder, then the center part of our cardigan. So now let's join these to make them one. Again, I joined them using the single crochets because it's what I've been doing on the other parts. So let's meet when I've joined. So this is now what I have after joining using a single crochet, and this is where we'll now make our collar. So this is where I want you to begin on. So to make our collar, remember our shape. You see the shaping. So where where the V ends, where the slanting ends. You see, we have this is where it ends. So that's where it ends. So that's where we are going to begin making our collar. And to make our collar, I mostly use the slip stitch. So if with here I'm just inserting my yarn to be able to start over. So I'll be using the slip stitch, slip crochet. So I'll use this part of my previous single crochet. So by slip stitch, this is what I mean. You just slip in your yarn, so I'll do the slip. So the slip stitch appears better with this kind of a collar, but you can use any stitch that you wish. But for me, a slip stitch collar is better. So you remember where we started on the other side. So exactly where the slanting ends is again where we are going to end. For it to balance. So there we go. You see where the slanting ended is where we will also end our first row of the slip stitch. So now let's go back. Let's turn over our work to go back to where we began. I'm still doing the slip stitches, the slip crochet method. So I'll do this up to where I began. So this is where I began. This was where I began. Remember, it had a knot, so it's a little bit, yeah. So this is where we began. So on our next row will seem to be increasing. So we add a stitch from the ones we left. So we add a stitch. You can pick of both sides for it to be firm. So we add a stitch from the ones we left. Again, do another row of the slip stitches. So remember, we are making the collar. So we do slip stitches up to the other side. So this is where we had our last stitch. So here again we add a stitch from the ones we left out just by slipping in your yarn. Then continue with your slip stitches, going back to where we began. So we do again another row. So we go up to where we began and again increase from the stitches we left. So our aim of doing this is to be able to have the collar slanted. You see, we didn't have to do it separately, it's just forming itself on the body of our cardigan. And remember, so we'll do up to the, remember our 2 extra rows are for the buttons. So up to this point we are done with our collar. So this should be our last row. To be able to leave out the 2 columns we made for the button line, for the button part. So I'll finish with the last row. So this is, I'm not doing another row since my so we are done with our collar, given that our tutorial sample is small. So this is how mine appears. I hope you can get from this small thing that I did. So for our buttons, you see what we left. This is what we use for our buttons. You see, it's already shaping itself, despite it being a small thing, it's already in shape. So the main things to note is the shaping of this part, and also when you're beginning to do your collar, begin from where the curve ends. So you begin your collar here to be able to get spaces to increase. So thank you for watching up to this point. I hope the tutorial added something to your crocheting, and if you love this kind of content, please hit the subscribe button, and up until the next tutorial, bye bye.